Renée Garcia, welcome, welcome. So excited to have you here. We're
Thank
gonna
you for
look
having
at
me.
you are so welcome. Bless you for coming. We are so excited. We're gonna talk about all things reality transurfing. So I'm gonna start by introducing your amazing new book. Um, the Quantum Capitalist, where I feel like you've taken reality transurfing and turned it into a very kind of user-friendly manual. The blurb on the back says Renée Garcia, a visionary on a quest to awaken you from life's monstrous slumber. She's your guide to a new reality where wealth of all kinds is finally within reach. Renée offers you the keys to a life vibrant and unfettered by societal norms, leading you to your own reality where all you've desired is effortlessly possible. This is no ordinary self-help journey. It's an unforgettably fun, oh, we're here for all the fun and flapdoodle, step-by-step roadmap showing you how to harness your inner powers and descend to a fascinating new way of thinking and receiving. So do
Ooh.
you know what I love about you? Well, there's many things I love, but one of the things is that when we start on the whole healing, making the unconscious conscious spiritual journey, all of that good stuff. There seems to be so many shiny things out there, and we can go down the path of many modalities, which is fantastic because there's lots of good stuff out there. But what I love about you is that you found reality transurfing and you mm, turned it upside down, inside out, shook it all out, and you've really, really rolled with that. So I would just love for you to tell us, what is reality transurfing? How did you come by it? And, how did it change the trajectory of your life?
Wow, that's a great place to start. Um, yeah, I mean, it's been about 10 years now since I found transurfing, and have you ever read that book, The Alchemist by David Coelho, where he's the
I don't
sheep herder and then he
know.
finds the map and the map leads him on this incredible journey towards this treasure. But then at the end, the map leads him to where he actually found the map and began, which was herding his sheep back
Right.
at the back where he started. Like that was his treasure, right? So I'm on a little bit of a similar journey. Like I said, I encountered transurfing about 10 years ago, and it led me on this wild adventure. And when I say wild, you've seen it. You've seen everything it's facilitated in my life, from romantic relationships to business ventures to moving to different countries to spearheading the reality transurfing movement and becoming like the face of reality transurfing to authoring books. I mean, I'm releasing my second book this year, which is, mind blowing to me. I can't even wrap my head around that, really, because, I grew up very impoverished in many, many ways, both financially and emotionally, spiritually. I didn't have any benefits of a supportive environment. I had no self-esteem instilled in me as a child. I was the classic definition of a marginalized, child. And then I went into adulthood and remained marginalized until I was almost 30 years old. So I'm now 45. It's been 15 years. 5 of those years, I managed to garner some success for myself, but I did it in all the wrong ways and it almost broke me. And then at 35 years old, I found reality transurfing by chance. And I was in really a
Was
desperate
it by
place.
chance?
Yeah,
Was it by
exactly.
chance?
I know. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, carry
Even as this
on.
to this day, that moment still stands out in my mind as one of the most bizarre phenomenons of encountering information and feeling something inside stir without even knowing what it was, without even looking for it, but feeling some sort of quantum shift within myself and trusting that feeling, that voice, as transurfing gives to us, that rustle of the morning stars. So yeah, I look back on that moment, and it's powerful knowledge, as you know, and I really dove into the knowledge head first, and I was like, oh my god, I can reprogram my mind. I can go after these big, crazy, lofty goals. I can start all these new business ventures and do all this stuff. And it led me through 10, wild years. And when I say wild, it was never, ever, ever a dull moment. And I manifested, or materialized, as we like to say in transurfing instead, I materialized stuff that I never thought I could materialize. But it brought me to a place where I also sort of realized that just because we can manifest and we have the power to manifest, there are still some going after a goal that's specifically intended for you, and tuning your skill set to support what it is you're intended to do in this world is the ultimate practice of manifestation, in my opinion. All the other stuff, which is great, I've had a lot of fun, I made a lot of money, I bought a lot of cool stuff, I bought cars and jewelry and houses and took wild trips and did all kinds of cool stuff. At the end of the day, and it took me 8 years of going around with this knowledge to realize that it kind of wasn't where it's at for me. Where it's at for me is, like I just said, dialing in my skill set, going after that endeavor, that goal that's intended for me, which is writing now. And everything else has sort of fallen away at this point. My obsession, if you will, or addiction to making money, to cash, to having an elevated lifestyle, all that kind of stuff, it has no draw on me anymore at all. And even in writing my books, you hold up my book and it's like, I'm proud to see my book is materialized, but I was so focused on writing it. I was so immersed in the process of writing. I was so enthralled with the fact that I had grabbed a hold of that option and was learning how to do that, to write a book and to publish a book and all that stuff. It didn't even for a moment dawn on me that people were actually going to read the book and it was going to be in physical reality. Like, once people started making comments or reviews on Amazon, I was just like, whoa, this is so weird. This is the other side of it that I didn't even account for. And just that pressure release from diving into something and feeling as though I needed to see a specific outcome, or I needed to go after a certain set of metrics, vanity metrics, or sales and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, absolute game changer. I now dive into anything that I do with just reckless abandon for the process itself and developing my skills and learning the art of whatever it is I'm doing. And that's where I found the happiness in my life. So it's a rebirth of sorts for me, and reality transurfing never ceases to amaze me. I'm always turning a corner with it. There's something new emerging, there's some new insight, there's some twist in the road where I'm like, wow, how is this possible? What is going on? Like, this is so cool. Suddenly I'm an author, I'm getting ready to publish my next book, and it's been an amazing ride. So yeah, I could really talk for hours and hours about what reality transurfing has done for me, but that's it in a nutshell, really.
There's so many questions come to mind with all that you've just said. One of them is, what tips would you offer to someone in order to let go of outcome, because sometimes we're so focused on I need this, oh I really want that, and then we can get very, very lost in that. What tips would you, are there any tips, really RT tips on letting go of the outcome, surrendering to the process? Because that, as you say, that's ultimately where we get to then enjoy the journey. But that seems to be a long time in coming for a lot of us.
You know, I wish I had an easy answer for that. I think how it happened for me was very, very natural. Like I said, I accomplished some pretty cool stuff in the last 10 years using the transurfing knowledge, including growing my net worth and, being able to do some pretty remarkable things that I thought that I'd never be able to do for myself. And when I was standing at the precipice of making these moves, like let's say moving to a foreign country and buying a big beautiful villa for all cash. I mean, there were moments where I'm just like, especially after I bought my house. I mean, the second to the last house that I bought was so opulent and so gorgeous and had so, all the bells and whistles. And I thought to myself, this is so amazing that I can do this. And just to walk in the house with my feet on the ground and feel the house below me and be like, oh, this is mine, this is mine. And I've been into real estate for the last 10 years and have made a little bit of money doing it. So, I kind of felt like it was in line with that goal of, developing a real estate portfolio and being able to understand market trends and get in there and do deals. And having the house, at the beginning, I was like, this is so cool. This belongs to me. And wow, I'm really doing it. And I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go sit out on my veranda and look at the view. And I'd be like, wow, you're owning it. You're the queen of your reality. But pretty soon that faded, and I realized that it was my ego kind of playing yet another trick on me, which is one of the fallbacks of reality transurfing, I'd say, is not a fallback, but or a point of weakness, but the what I've noticed with my progression through the knowledge, our egos are very tricky. We can convince ourselves that we're doing things for specific reasons, like me buying a house. Oh, it's part of my real estate game. I'm winning the game. I'm doing reality transurfing right. But really, all it was a glossy, glamorized version of some poverty mentality that my ego was still trying to hold on to. I was, when you grow up very lower middle class in a trailer park like me, the thought of owning a home is very enticing and very very comforting. And there's a lot in there where you're like, oh, this will mean that this will ensure my survival. And I had a lot of I had a lot of internal feedback that was telling me that that was the right thing to do. But then after the newness wore off on the house, I realized that it was like I said it in my book. We've made jokes about it a couple of times, eating the bag of cheesy puffs, right? It's like you're hungry and you go after that bag of cheesy puffs and you're eating it and you're like, oh, this is really good, but then when you get to the end of the bag, you're like, I'm now my body's actually craving nutrition and I'm still kind of hungry, but I just feel a little bit sick and I wish I wouldn't have. And that's kind of what I encountered a number of times until I got to a point where I was like, okay, what's really going on here? Like, what's really going on? This isn't fulfilling long term. So what is fulfilling long term? And again, for me, it's developing my craft as a writer. I'm teaching myself how to write books. I'm on my third book now. I launched from one directly into another, and after this, I'm going to write my first full length novel. So, and that feels very, very fulfilling long term. So it's not so much a point of trying to figure out how to switch over from that that gratification mindset of trying to hack what we call heart and mind coordination in reality transurfing. Try to steer yourself away from the matrix accoutrements and go towards the heart and mind coordination. It's not so much that, it's binge on the matrix accoutrements and then realize that that's actually not that satisfying. And then after you've gotten that out of your system, then it's time to get real. Like, what is going to satisfy me then? And what I tell people that follow me is that the 2 times that I climbed the highest in my life, the 2 times where I was like, oh my God, you did it. You hacked the matrix. You got all your ducks in a row financially. You've got financial freedom. You've got status. You've got this. You've got that. Both times that I did that in sort of very obvious and glamorous ways were both the times that I also found myself the most miserable I had found myself in my life. So once you've experienced that a couple of times, I mean, I'm shocked that it took me 2 times. Like, I should have learned my lesson the first time, but I didn't. And I went back in for a second round of matrix accoutrements. And when I encountered it the second time, I was like, okay,
got it.
pigs up, like, you don't need to learn this one again, So now I'm living in a very small RV on a family member's piece of property, deep in, a magical little forest. And I've got my 2 dogs, and I don't really give a shit if I make money or I don't. Money to me, I've kicked my cash addiction in the last year intentionally after I had this experience where I was like, okay, I've learned my lesson. Then it was like, okay, so now you got to go about like actually kicking that addiction, because I had gotten into over earners mode, and really got addicted to like building my nest egg and saving and making this happen for myself financially, and that happened. And finally I just went, okay, enough. I don't want to play the game anymore. I'm going to dial it down to the absolute basics. I'm going to learn to live with as little as possible, and I'm going to curb that cash addiction. And it's in that I've actually managed to clean up the last remnants of my poverty mentality, believe it or not. Like, kind of going back to that place, as weird as it sounds. So yeah, I'm sort of living the alchemist in real life. And yeah, I mean, it's a wild ride, and I'm very, very grateful for it, for sure.
I love that, and it's no coincidence then that you're one of the shorts that repeatedly because you've been prolific on YouTube. You've got many hundreds of videos there on YouTube, which I'll put all the links to. But one of the shorts that repeatedly shows up on my YouTube timeline from you is a little clip about how if we've not been in and gone and healed a lot of causal issues and real kind of hardcore unconscious gunk, having the money will come to face in a rather very profound way with those issues. Yeah, I don't know whether you can think about I don't know whether you remember the clip that I'm speaking to, but yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah, I do. And this is the dangerous part of not cleaning up that gunk and making money. I am a poster child for trying to mask untreated poverty mentality with making money. Once you go into that space, and if you can be successful like I was, that's when madness really begins to unfurl itself. Because for me, I grew up with this idea that if I could only make some money, all my problems would be solved. If I could only make some money, I would feel good about myself. If I could only make some money, I would feel free. If only I could make some money, I would, blah, blah, blah. And then once you get the money, it not only doesn't heal all of those feelings within of inadequacy and confusion about where happiness is, and none of that stuff gets healed, but it also goes in the other direction, that it makes those things worse. Because here I thought I had the answer. I was grabbing that thing that solution that I felt was going to solve all the problems in my life. And not only did it not solve the problems, but it amped up the level of confusion. It amped up the level of desperation, and that was those moments in my life were some of the darkest moments, because I just couldn't wrap my head around the fact that that wasn't the answer, because I had convinced myself for so long that it was going to be the answer. So then when it wasn't, I was like, shit. Like, oh, where's there to go from here? Like, what do I do now? And like I said, it's returning back to that original place and doing some work within that space, and kind of giving up what I believed was going to be the solution to my problems. Now, it's not that I'm not making any money, or that I'm going to, live a life of being destitute and, going on food stamps or something like that. That's not the case. But looking to money or status to solve problems, I mean, I'm fucking over it. I kicked it. It was like kicking a heroin addiction.
Yep. You could say that you dropped importance, which is definitely something I know we're aware of. I'm so aware of your time, but that was definitely something I wanted to bring into the conversation, was dropping importance, because that's one of perhaps the most favorite elements for me in reality transurfing. And this podcast is called Unmute Yourself, because I think there are so many of us, particularly as females, I think, who know we have skills and magic and offerings and all sorts of things to put out into the world, but we hold ourselves back repeatedly because of fear of judgment, fear of criticism, all of the fears, fear of ostracism, kind of popping our head above parapet and having it shot off. And that is something that I see in you, is repeatedly you've overcome, and you've shown courage in dropping importance. Could you speak a little to the principle of what is dropping importance, and how does it help you show up as in your community, in reality transurfing community?
Yeah, dropping importance is one of the tenets of reality transurfing, that if you were to grab onto one of the concepts, dropping importance is, in my opinion, the most effective and powerful. And it's really this idea that all of our suffering stems from the importance that we've assigned to something. I've got to get married. I've got to make this money. I've got to get this job. I've got to buy this house. I've got to become this kind of person. Oh, these flaws that I have, people are going to notice them. Those flaws are important for me to fix or conceal. Trying to control in relationships, trying to, just like it pretty much, if you're forcing anything in your life, or if you're overly focused on anything in your life, or if you're overly desiring something, or you're feeling as though something's missing from your life. Oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, I don't have that romantic partner. This importance that you have surrounding that event, person, place, thing, yourself, your qualities, whatever, your suffering is a product of the importance that you've attributed or assigned to that thing, not the thing itself. So the example that I like to give. So let's say that you're having a problem with somebody, and this problem is of great importance to you, right? You're in an argument with a romantic partner, or people at work are talking shit about you or whatever, and you're to call a friend and vent, right? Oh, this thing's happening, so and so doesn't love me, or these people are talking bad about me, or I can't get this person to do this thing that I want them to do, or whatever. If your friends like, who cares, or if they don't see the problem as big as you see it, then it's importance, because importance is something that the individual suffers from. I mean, we suffer from things collectively also, but if it's in your mind, if it's a problem that exists in your mind and not in the minds of people around you in the same way. So like, when people say, oh, I've got a problem, it's like, well, do you have a problem, or do you have a thought in your mind? Right? A problem for me is I'm having dinner with my family and suddenly floodwaters come rushing in and everybody's got to fight for survival to get out of the house before they drown. That's a real problem, right? Because the people around me are all struggling for the same solution to save their lives. And the problem is physical, water coming into the house, or the house on fire, or whatever. That's a problem. What people often define as a problem is really just importance in their minds over a specific issue that they've blown up. And the easy solution to solving that problem is to lower your levels of importance. So importance is kind of like a snag in your reality creation practice. If your levels of importance are too high over something, you're focused on that thing, you're not going with the flow, you're not open to other variables playing out, you're not open to simple solutions to complex problems, as we like to say. And yeah, like you're messing your reality up with your thoughts. And if you want to make reality go smoother, if you want to engage reality in more meaningful, high frequency ways, the first thing that you need to do is to, really call out your importance levels and then go about actively lowering them. And when you do that, reality starts to shift. So it really is a matter of addressing that is at the forefront of your reality creation practice, for sure.
Can I ask how specifically you do that when it comes to showing up in whether it be doing a YouTube video, writing your book, being seen, essentially? How has that principle helped you in being visible, in sharing your magic?
Yeah, well, this is a great question, because like I said, growing up, I was marginalized. I was not instilled with any healthy coping, skills, any self-esteem, any, I had no skill set going into adulthood, and this, I felt, put me at an incredible disadvantage to the other humans I was seeing in my life. I have a ninth grade education. I struggled well into my 20s. It wasn't until I was about 30 that I started to gain some control. And when I decided to, 35 years old, embark on propagating reality transurfing to a wider audience, all that garbage talk came into play. You're not good enough. Who are you to talk on camera? you don't know anything, you've got a ninth grade education, nobody's going to listen to you, you don't have the skills to do anything like that, people are going to laugh at you. And what happens is, and it's the same with writing, you know, I actually have a very close friend, somebody that I did consider a close friend for a number of years. I gave them my first writings for my first book, and my friend said to me, I don't see a future with you being an author, Renee. Like, you're just not, you just don't have what it takes. And initially, that would have stopped me in my tracks, right? That would have, as soon as that insecurity set in, I would be done, freeze up and be fearful of people judging me and laughing at me and all that kind of stuff. But from what I learned, my training is the best way to overcome your focus on your shortcomings or what you can't do or how you won't succeed or what other people are going to say about you. All that stuff is to act in the other direction and prove yourself wrong, and don't stop until you've proven yourself wrong. And this was very much the case with Transurfing TV. You know, there were days, and I talk very openly about this, I would be filming and it would just be take after take after take, and finally I just stop and cry and break down and think I can't do it, and you know, turn the camera off and walk away from the whole thing for a number of days and convince myself that I couldn't do it and I was going to stop. But I'd go and turn that camera back on and I'd keep talking, and in front of all the viewers, I got over that shit, you know. And a lot of people, what they do is they attempt, so if you look at your insecurities or your negative feelings about yourself as a maze, a lot of people at the center of that maze think, oh, I have to find a way out of the maze, I have to, you know, do this and change this about myself and cultivate this skill and do all this before I can make a move, and then this will help me escape the maze, which is making the move, right? But you never get there, it doesn't happen like that. How you actually escape the maze is you lower your importance levels about people's perception of you, your perception of yourself, what you're not good at, all those characteristics that you feel are going to keep you from getting to point A to point B, and you lower the importance on that stuff, and then the maze walls dissolve on their own, and there is no maze, right? So that's kind of the way that I went about doing it, but it's very counterintuitive to our current culture. Our current culture convinces us that there's something wrong with us and you got to change this and you got to buy this course and you've got to listen to this and you've got to study this and you've got to study that. No, you don't. The only thing that you really, really have to do is work at what you feel called to do, and don't stop until don't stop until you've proven yourself wrong. And it's a lot easier than most people think that it is. But again, society, the matrix, and our culture convinces us that we've got all these things wrong with us and you've got to solve all these things before you can make a move. No, you make the moves to solve all those things. It's the other way around, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I'm so aware of your time, Renee. Is there anything else that you would like to say before closing up? Anything about shining our light, healing trauma, pendulums, anything? What comes to mind?
Well, I guess I would just say that if anything that I've said resonates with you, dive into transurfing and don't look back. I mean, I feel as though I've encountered a miracle with this knowledge. It's forever changed the landscape of my reality, my mind, my relationships, you know, healed a lot of parts about me that I didn't believe could be healed. And we've got tons of resources. We've got a huge thriving Facebook group. There's Transurfing TV with 1,000 videos. Quantum Capitalist is the easy, modern kind of transurfing for dummies, if you will. I've got another book getting ready to come out called Quantum Hillbilly, which is a compilation of memoirs telling you how I went from point A to point B through, some very vivid storytelling, and it's also a workbook. So it's going to be really, really powerful for anyone that's like, where do I start? Listen to some of my crazy stories about where I originated from and how I've gotten to the place I am now. And that will give you a little fuel to, kind of launch you into maybe learning the transurfing concepts themselves or the quantum capitalist concepts. So there's a lot out there. If you need help, come into the Facebook group and ask. I'm very active in there. I'll point you in the right direction. And yeah, you can get the ball rolling.
I've been fortunate enough to read some of those, as you say, crazy stories, and they're profoundly moving and inspiring. And I love the Facebook group for how you show up, because my sense is that in dropping the importance, you show up in there as a very, very extraordinarily honest human being, and I think we're all kind of fatigued. We all have kind of guru fatigue. We're not looking for kind of leaders who are the kind of with a facade. We're looking for that very real, very raw, vulnerable honesty, and you have that in shed loads. And I certainly appreciated that in the Facebook group. I love that in your books, your YouTube videos too. So I'm going to put all the links to everything in the show notes. But I'm so grateful. I'm just so grateful for you and for your magic. I love you so much.
Oh, I love you too, Susie. Thank you so much for having me on. Hopefully we can do it again. I could talk
Yes.
for hours.
Yes. Well, we could listen for hours. So yeah, bless you. Thank you so much, Renée.
All right, bye, Susie.
Bye bye.